implemented all these individual properties into a single place. That means we are now successful in assembling all these properties into a particular syntax. We need to make you understand about this thing, about this project, and in that purpose sometimes we will be using big images and sometimes we will be using the small images, as we have saved both the images for that purpose over here. Now all we are going to do, we are using this foxbig.png. We want that our image is entirely covering up the whole div element that is being used in this purpose. In that case, we will be defining about this background size. There it goes. And we can see that there are three conditions. Actually, two of them will be used. Auto condition, it practically uses the same dimension of the image with which the image is practically being saved into your project. So this is an auto condition. It is practically utilizing the full width and height property of the images. This is the same thing that we have encountered so far, so we won't be discussing about it. In the next case, we will be talking about this cover condition. Press Ctrl S, get back to your project and reload, and we can see that this image is practically covering this. If we need to make it more convincing, again we are bringing on this foxsmall.png here. Let's get back to our project and reload, and we can see that that particular small image, it had practically a dimension of 300 pixels and 250 pixels. And we can see that it is practically now stretching itself and it is covering this whole area of this particular div element that we are using over here. So this is the exact purpose which is being served under this condition. That means this background size cover. Here we are practically instructing our browser to cover the whole element with that particular image that we are using over here, and that is what exactly being done over here. You can see that it is stretched in size, and that is why it is now getting a little bit of blur over here. So I guess we'll be switching back to our Foxbig to make it a bit better, and there it goes. We can see that this is the actual big image that is being used over here, and it is covering this entire area. On the other hand, if instead of cover we now use contain, I guess there's another kind of image should be required over here in order to make you understand the difference between contain and cover. So all we are now going to do, we are going to use a different image over here. So we have imported this particular image into our project, into the images folder or images directory of our root folder. Now all we are going to do, we are going to use this particular image, people.png. So we are copying the file name, getting back to our project. Instead of this foxbig.png or small or this kind of thing, we'll be now using this people.png. Remove this last extension. It is a repetition of its previous one. And instead of this background size contain or this sort of things, first of all, let's remove it from here. Get back to our project and reload, and we can see that this is practically a very small image that is being used over here. And in that essence, now we are going to use this background size contain. Now if we reload, we can see that this image is practically stretching a little bit to cover the width area of this particular div element that is being used over here. And we have defined that the central position to be fixed. Instead of that, let's produce here position top. For a certain instance, remove this fixed condition from here. Reload, and we can see that the image is practically covering up this whole div element, but instead of stretching itself to cover these whole images, it is practically getting stretched according to the width, and it is practically covering the whole width of this particular div element. But instead of contain command, if we use cover, get back to your project, reload, and we can see that now it is being stretched to cover the whole area of this particular div element which is being used over here. Now this is the background size property that is being used, that is being described over here. I think you should be experimenting on with some more images to understand the difference between this contain and this cover segment. You need to make some more experiments with varying image sizes over here. In the next case, First of all, we are going to remove this people image, and instead we are using Fox big here. We have removed this top fixed condition. Fixed condition is being removed practically from this syntax. And now let's reload. We have used a background size cover, but instead we may use contain reload, and we can see that it is practically covering this whole width area. In the next condition, all we are going to do, as we have described earlier, that we are going to use a background color with this particular background image condition. Both of them will be used together. That means these two properties, those will be associated in this particular case. Now all we are going to do, we are going to provide a comma at the end, put a space, and provide a particular color. I have chosen this white color over here. Let's get back to our project and reload, and we can see that this background is now being used along with the image. This image is practically an individual PNG image, as we have discussed it here so far. This is an individual element, an individual image, and in the next case all we are going to do, we are going to use an individual color over here. So this is a single property, a different property, and this entire thing is another property, but both of them are being used in the same place accordingly. So that is what we can see over here. So far we have a knowledge on developing a lot of things. We are now aware of how to use an individual color for a particular div element or any kind of HTML element. We are aware of how to use a background image and its varying nature, such as its repeating itself or not repeating, its positional properties, its attachment with the element, all those properties. What happens if we want to accumulate them into a single place, how to use them, and then the background size condition. So in the next case now, all we are going to do, we are going to learn about how to use background blending modes and filter properties in this context. Stay tuned and do not forget to subscribe us, comment on it, let us know about your opinion, share, like, and of course hit that particular bell icon to stay connected with us. Getting back to you soon as per schedule. Till then, bye.